Just a quick note for housekeeping, and this is always a good thing for you to think about when you are ready to get started on your meetings. But if you can ask, if I can ask everyone to just put yourselves on mute for right now, because sometimes what will happen is if there are other things going on in the background, there can be some feedback and some, it can cause a little bit of a delay in being able to hear the content. So thank you all once again for joining us. We're up to 105 people right now. I'm so excited to see all of you. Hope you and your families are well. And I'm very excited to share this with you. So let me start off by saying that we as a district have been very selective about what we are going to offer in terms of virtual online learning for a number of reasons. Number one, the privacy and safety and security of our staff members as well as our students. So we have been looking into various tools over the past month or so, just trying to figure out what would be the best tool for us to use as a district. One of the things that we've been trying to do with any of the PD that we select, as well as any of the tools we select, is we want them to be, number one, user-friendly and tested. So the technology department, we test these different tools throughout the past couple of weeks to make sure that we have an understanding of how everything works and that we can anticipate some of the issues that may arise, so we can walk you through that and prepare you prior to moving in this direction. Number two, we want to make sure that we're selecting sustainable resources. So we don't want to offer something that might be free and cool for now, but not available moving forward. Because there are a lot of things that are being offered right now for free, but they won't always be free. One of the things that is great about Google Meets is that it's part of our Google Apps for Education suite. So that is something that's already included and available to us in the district. Now, that being said, we looked at a couple of different options. We not only do we do our own research, but we look at other districts that are not just within our county, but in the state and also nationwide. And we look to them, some of the ones that kind of like got out of the gate real fast with the virtual learning, and tried to learn from some of the mistakes that they made and some of the things that they found as challenges and also their successes. So for a while prior to break, the tech team and I, we switched from Google. We were doing a daily Google Meet hangout and for our daily meetings. And then we switched over to Zoom just to practice with it, just to see what that was like, because we knew a lot of districts were using it. If you see things in the press, there have been a number of challenges and obstacles that individuals have faced using Zoom. While they have done better with some of their policies and their privacy agreements, we're still not comfortable with that as an option for our district. So after about a week of testing and doing that research and the news coming out that Zoom was banned for New York City public schools, we went back to doing our daily meetings with Google Meets, and we are, I can confidently say that we are comfortable with using this as an option moving forward. Now, that being said, we're going to talk about how to set it up properly, because there are specific ways that it needs to be set up and shared out with students so that it's a safe environment, okay? And that means that only the students that have their parents have opted them in, and I'll talk about that in a moment, will have access to it. So we sent out through School Messenger. You did not receive it because we were only soliciting parent feedback. We sent out an opt-in or opt-out agreement specifically for Google Meets. So students and parents in the beginning of the year filled out their Chromebook and Google Apps for Education agreement. And that gave us the ability to use the tools that we've been using all year long and gave the students the ability to use their Chromebooks. Since this is a different type of learning experience, we need to have parent support and authorization that their students can participate in online meetings or office hours. And we'll talk about exactly what that means in a little bit as well. That being said, we put out a survey asking parents to opt their children in or out to Google Meets only. Okay, so that's the only district approved video conferencing app. We sent out the school messenger. We're on our 4th round of school messenger surveys that have gone out. And currently we have 1,164 students that have opted in, 64 students that have opted out, and 1,098 who have not replied yet. So this survey went out again today. The survey is run over the course of 2 days, and it gives the parents the ability to log in and opt in or opt out. Then what happens is after those 2 days are up, so at 9 o'clock tomorrow night, the report will be finished. I'll go through anybody who hasn't replied and send them another survey. We're going to continue doing that over the course of the next week until we get that 1,098 number down, and then determine who's on the opt-in list and who's on the opt-out list. In order for us to move forward, we need to make sure that anyone that is going to participate in the online meetings or office hours is on that opt-in list. And anyone who is not will have to be removed from the meeting. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. So let's talk about the difference between synchronous live instruction and office hours and class meetings, okay? The district is not moving forward with synchronous online instruction. That means there will be no live learning exactly like this, where I am delivering my lesson for the day for my students, okay? The reason being, we have a number of students that have family circumstances where they're not able to log in at a specific time. So let's say I offered my class at 10 a.m. Every Tuesday. Well, not every student can log in at 10 a.m. every Tuesday. And that would leave a portion of our students, especially our students that need us the most, that would leave them out of that conversation and that learning. So we are not moving forward with that now. We are relying on, and I've seen so many wonderful tutorials and videos that you guys have created over the past couple of weeks. So we're looking at Screencastify, that I did a couple of PD sessions on. I know Natalie did a couple of sessions on Photo Booth, and those are great options for you to use to do screencasting, or also to just share a message or speak to your students as you're going through perhaps a website or a learning experience. The reason why that is great is because that can be watched at any time. So students have access to that through their Google Classrooms or through the templates that are on our flexible learning website. And that makes it really user-friendly for parents and also students to be able to access that content at any time. So that's why we've chosen to go in that direction. While that is necessary, and I totally I fully believe and I'm confident in that decision for our students and for their families and for us as well, because online learning like this can be predictable, okay, unpredictable. My dog at any moment could start barking, and I'm going to have to mute myself, and we'll have to take a little time out. Adults can be a lot more forgiving about that than students. And we're also talking about, when we make decisions like this, a range of students from preschool all the way up to seniors. So we have to make sure that we're equitable. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, we also know that there's a need for students to be able to interact with us, ask questions, maybe just do a morning check-in with some of our youngest students or even some of our older students, where they need to kind of have some of that interaction. And that's more of that human connection, that personal interaction, where you are there for your students to ask questions. So what we'll do as we move into phase 3 and phase 4 is work on schedules so that students would be able to connect with teachers at different times for different periods or subject areas. That will be determined by building as we move forward. But for right now, we're just going to go over the steps that you would take to set up your Google Meets through Google Classroom for your students. Okay, so everybody with me so far on the logistical stuff? Okay, great. So I'm going to go over a couple of things. I'm going to share my screen with you right now. And we're going to go over just kind of like the background of procedures and policies that we have in place as a district, just to ensure the safety of ourselves and the safety of our students. Then I'm going to walk you through setting up your Google Meet through your Google Classroom. And then I am going to pass the torch over to Tyler Kazar, and he is going to talk to you about, he's going to show you a demonstration of what the Google Meet looks like from the student side as well as from the teacher side when you're ready to go live with that. Before I begin, I just want everybody to know that we are not moving into this right away. Okay, we're doing the PD over the course of the next couple of weeks, and then everyone will get the official word that it's okay to move forward with online meetings or with office hours. Does everybody understand that? We're good? Any thumbs up? Okay, great. Okay, so let me just go over a couple of guidelines. Now, one of the things that we'd like you to do, and Tyler, if you could grab this and put it in the chat just so that everybody has the link, that would be awesome. We have some guidelines for our online meetings. Now, again, this is only for office hours, small group or class meetings, and not synchronous live sessions. Now, the only caveat to that is that OT, PT, and speech, those three services are required by law to be teleservices as per the governor of New Jersey, okay? So this week, for those students that receive those services and those providers within our district, those are the only three areas where they are doing any online instruction, okay? So it's OT, PT, and speech. They had a separate training yesterday to learn how to do this, and they are moving forward with that. Anyone else that is starting with this process is we're not allowed to do that yet. We're not doing that until we have the opt-in or opt-out information from every student. And like I said, we're on our fourth round of the survey. It's gonna take another week or so to get to everybody. All right, let's go back to these guidelines. So you want to consider a couple of things prior to hosting your session. So there are two examples on the second page. I'll scroll down to that in a little bit. But if students are having a hard time with something and they need to ask you a question, will you have them share their screen with you? Are you comfortable with that? Do you want students to be able to talk during the meeting right away? Or do you want to call on students individually and have everyone muted right from the beginning? So you just want to start to think about, as we go through this process, what rules do you think you want to have in place before your first meeting? And then try to make an outline of that so that you're comfortable and ready to move forward before we get to that point where we're offering online meetings or small groups or office hours. Now, the reason why these are guidelines that we're asking you to consider is the same reason that we ask you to consider those things for your particular classroom for each different class and the different types of individuals and students that you have in that class. There are sometimes different needs that you create and different rules that you create for your classes based on just the dynamics of that class. So there are certain things that I'm going to go over that are absolutely we must do these things. But as far as the guidelines for your individual classrooms, like, are you letting students share video? Are you allowing them to talk? Is everyone muted? Those are the same types of things that you'll consider as if it was your own classroom, okay? The non-negotiables we'll go over now. Okay, so one thing that you want to make sure of is that your background is free of distractions, okay? So we want to make sure that we don't have anything in the background that can be distracting to students. I'm sure that we've all seen over the past couple of weeks, on the news, and especially late night talk shows with, different people that didn't realize that their cat was in the background cleaning him or herself. And, those types of things can definitely be distracting to students, or could cause a little bit of chaos, and you don't want that to happen. So now that doesn't mean that you're like, a plain background is good, but as you can see, I have my plants back here. I know that they are growing, but they are not going to move and do anything that will be embarrassing to me. So I feel comfortable in this area talking to you today. So you want to make sure that anything that is identifiable is also not in the background. So you want to think about things, pictures. Maybe if you have family pictures and you don't necessarily want to display that, maybe choose a different area. You also want to be mindful that as much as we can possibly try to control this, to try to be alone in your space as much as possible, so that there aren't other distractions with maybe family members and things like that walking through behind you and not realizing that they're on camera. Another thing we want to think about too is just confidentiality with students being able to talk to us and interact with us. So just be mindful that even though you may be in a space where you are alone, students may not be. So there may be other distractions or other people that may be able to listen to the interactions from their home. Understand the FERPA rules. FERPA are the federal guidelines that we have to abide by for student privacy and regulations. And there's a lot of information in there about recordings and online meetings. If you have more questions about that, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to have a conversation with you. We'll give each grade level a list of the students that are on the opt-out list. We won't give you the opt-in list. We're just assuming that everybody is opting in unless they're on the opt-out. And the opt-out list is a lot smaller. So this way you'll be able to just look at that and see whether or not a student is allowed to be in that meet. Don't share your screen if you have windows open that are not related to the class. So, if I had a tab here because I was, trying to order online to ShopRite, or, maybe I was, perusing another website, which is totally fine. It's totally fine. But not something that you want to have open when you're trying to do an online meeting. So just make sure that the tabs you have open are the tabs that you need open. And the other reason for that is not just for your own privacy, but because the more tabs you have open and the more applications you have running in the background, let's say you have, you have your Chrome browser open, but you also have a lot of documents in Word that were open, and maybe a PowerPoint. Well, all of those other things and all of those extra tabs, they're going to make your computer slow down a little bit. So you want to make sure that everything is closed out before you start a meeting. And if you're unsure if you haven't everything closed, or if you haven't restarted your MacBook in a while, it's always a good idea to restart your MacBook before you go on to a Hangout, just to make sure that things are nice and smooth. Don't share meeting IDs publicly. And I'm going to go over that specifically in a couple of minutes. Although we are recording this session for the purposes of training anyone who is not able to join us today, please do not record your sessions, even for those students that can't join at that time. We want these to just be meetings and conversations, and not necessarily something that you are going to record. So please do not record, and please make sure that students know at the beginning of the session that they are not recorded. The other reason why we are choosing to use Meets is because recording on the student's end is disabled. Okay, so they cannot record directly through Meets. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't pick up their cell phone and record the screen, but that's just something that we'll consider later, and we'll talk through that. Just remind students that the code of conduct and classroom behavior and HIB all still apply. When you are done, make sure that you click there and sign off that you've read the agreement. And then this is the second page that I talked about before that had sample A teacher and sample B teacher overview and guidelines of best practices. Those are things that you can consider and determine how you want to set up your guidelines for students as you go into Google Meets for online meetings or for office hours. Okay, so now that we've gone through that, let's talk a little bit about the differences between the way that we just joined this Hangout and the way students will join the Hangout. Okay, the way we join this Hangout is nice and simple through a Google invitation, and I gave you a link. Okay, so I set up the invitation in my calendar. I shared with you the link. Now, what that means is that anybody that has that link can join that Hangout. That means that that can be shared with other students within the domain, outside of the domain. And by domain, I mean within the Somerville Schools email address group, okay? So that is not an option for us as educators to invite our students to a Google Meet. What we are going to use is we're going to go through Google Classroom. I am going to demonstrate how to set up through your Google Classroom. If you do not have Google Classroom set up already and you need assistance with that, please reach out to me. I can help you get that set up. But what you want to do, what you will want to do if you haven't done so already, is set up a Google Classroom for every group of students you would want to meet with. So if I am a high school teacher, most of you already have your Google Classroom set up by period, okay? That's great. It's a great way to go. You guys are already set up, and I'm going to show you how to just enable the Google Meet part. For our they're teachers of younger students, okay? You may have, if you are a second grade classroom teacher, you would want to create a Google Classroom for your entire second grade class. Or you may want to make Google Classroom groups based on smaller groups of students. So you might want to, just to make it more manageable, maybe divide your class in half or divide your class into 2 or 3 smaller groups so that you're meeting with smaller groups at a time. And then you would have either one classroom for your whole class or those two or 3 smaller groups. And I'll show you how to invite students into that. For resource teachers and teachers that teach special subject areas, you would want to do the same thing. You're going to create a classroom based on those groups of students that you would like to talk to at that one point. Okay? All right, so let me go into demonstrate now how to set up a classroom. Anybody that knows how to set up a classroom, I'm going to try to make this, I'm going to try to just make this nice and quick and easy. Sorry about that. Okay, so I'm starting at classroom.google.com. Okay. And when I get there, you're going to see that there's a number of tiles that are going to pop up automatically for the classes that I've already created. For the people that don't have a Google Classroom set up, I'm just going to quickly show you how to create a class. And then I'm going to show everyone how to enable the Google Meet. So when I get to classroom.google.com, you will join as a teacher, and I will share out directions with you that have those first couple of slides there that you're not seeing here. So you would see something that looks similar to this. You log in with your credentials, you click continue, and then you would sign in as a teacher, not a student. And then you would probably see something like blank like this instead of the tiles that I have. And that's where you would get started. So I'm going to assume that I'm already at that point, and I'm going to create my first class, or another class in this case. So I click on the plus sign, gives me the option to join or create. You want to create. Okay, I'm going to give it a class name. So your class name should be something that is very specific. So if it is going to be, you know, your period 3, and maybe the subject is English, and you don't have to select a room. Or maybe it is Ms. McEntee's second grade. And in that case, I may not have a subject or a section because I am the homeroom teacher. So I can leave those blank if I want to. If I happen to be a special subject area teacher and I want to set up a Google Classroom. Maybe this is maybe Mrs. Smith's second grade class, and the subject is art. Okay, so those are just a couple of examples. I'm going to add that there and just choose create when I'm done. You can always go back and edit that later, but you want to keep something that's consistent so that all of your tiles will be very easy to identify when you're trying to select your class. Okay, so it automatically puts me into my second grade class and it gives me a class code for students. Now, normally, if we were in the classroom, I could write this code on the board, ask students to go to classroom.google.com, type that in, and they would be enabled just like that. But we don't have that luxury right now since we're doing everything distance. So I would suggest going to people. So I'm scrolling over. We have stream, classwork, and people. I'm going to click on people. And if I have a teacher, that is working with me, an inclusion teacher, I'm going to pretend that it's Tyler right now. I can put Tyler in, and now Tyler has the same access that I do to this Google Classroom. And then I'm going to, underneath the students area, click on this icon to invite my students. I'm just going to type a single student here. This is a student that we test with. So M student, we're inviting. Now what happens is that student is listed as invited and the student is getting an email that they have to click on to enable that invitation. Once the student has selected that, it won't be light gray like this anymore. It will be dark black like Tyler's name and my name because we've already accepted. And also when they complete the invite, invited will no longer be listed here. When students have accepted the invitation, you will then see up here, which is not here yet because he's still listed as invited, you will see the ability to invite guardians. And there are directions that will accompany that later to invite guardians so that they can see summaries and things like that. They can't actually see your classroom, but they can get weekly updates if they choose to. Okay, so now that I have my classroom set up, I need to go over to my settings. Before I go to settings, I want to jump back to the home page of the stream and just show you again. So this just has the name of my class, the class code, but there's nothing here yet. Watch what happens when I go over to enable the meet. So I'm clicking on this settings icon. And this is where I can update any of these sections that I had just listed before with my class descriptions if I felt like I needed more. You can allow students to post and comment. That is the default. Or students can only comment, or only teachers can post and comment. So you want to think about those things too, what you want available to students. Show deleted items, you can toggle on or off. Guardian summaries is what I was just talking about. Once that parent accepts that invitation, then the student accepts the invitation, I'm sorry, then you can invite the parent to see those summaries. And here is what we want to look at here, okay? This is the ability to add Google Meet to your Google Classroom. And if you plan on doing Google office hours or online meetings with your students, this is where you need to go. After you've created your classroom, you select the Generate Meet link. And for right now, if you generate your Meet link, you can toggle this off because we're not ready yet for students to be able to interact with that, okay? When it's ready to go live, we can click on it to go live. If you're afraid that you may forget that, that's fine. You can still have this toggled on because students won't be able to get into the meeting. If you do it this way through Google Classroom first and then enable the meeting, students will not be able to join the meeting unless you've already started it. And Tyler is going to demonstrate that in a few minutes. So, and then this here is our link to our Google Meet. Okay, so I'm going to leave that on because they're really, I might I have a ton of things to do. I'm going to leave that on. I know that students cannot access it later. If you think that students are going to go into their Google Classroom and wonder what that link is and send you a lot of emails about it, you can toggle it off and then toggle it on later. The reason why I say that is because once you click save here in the upper right-hand corner, now we see on the home page, this is what students will see, a direct link to the Google Meet. Okay, so I'm going to click on this now before I jump over to Tyler. And you'll see that this meet is starting. And I'm just going to wait here. Okay, I'm waiting here until I'm ready to move forward with this meeting with my students. Now, it's a good practice to try to arrange your meetings to give you a little bit of time in between, 5, 10, 15 minutes, whatever you're comfortable with. This will help you not only organize things, but just do normal human things like maybe get up and get a drink, or use the restroom, or maybe just stretch your legs for a little bit. It also gives you the ability to make sure that you're set up and you have everything that you need ready before you move into the next, before you join that online meeting. So I'm going to hang out here and wait, and I am going to pass the torch over to Tyler, and he will demonstrate what it looks like on the student end to access the meeting.
Okay, thank you, Melissa. How's everyone doing? Good? Good so far? Okay, good. I know I've seen a bunch of messages come in through the chat, a lot of great questions. We are going to address those at the end. So just so that people don't think we're moving on and forgetting about you, we are going to address those later. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. As I'm sharing my screen, I did this at our last training, but I'm going to do a little bit of a nerd out here and kind of take a moment to really appreciate the technology that we have available to us right now to make this work. We were talking in the tech team the other day about how if this situation had happened 5 or 10 years ago, we'd be in really big trouble. Because right now it's really awesome that we have the ability to communicate with our students this way and have all these things in place. So as Melissa said, we're going to go ahead and start with doing a Google Meet with our students. And as she mentioned a lot of this, some security things, we're just going to reiterate that one more time when we go to start. Check our surroundings. Do I have private information behind me? Do I have things open on my computer that I don't need open? Do I have people around me that I don't want around me? So again, when we start a meeting, go through this almost like a checklist and kind of take a look around you and say, okay, yes, I'm good to go, and start my meeting. So now on the student side, Melissa had invited me to a Google Classroom, so they can accept that invitation either by clicking on join in Google Classroom here, or they will receive an email to join the classroom here. So I'm going to go ahead and click join. And when I do that, now I am going to become a member or a student of that classroom. And here now I will see all of the student side of anything that Melissa as my teacher posts. So now I can go ahead and try to join this classroom link here. And because Melissa had already started it, oops, hold on. It's going to go ahead and allow me stuff. But so because Melissa has not yet started the meeting, she's kind of hanging out in that pre-stage section of Google Meets. The student can't yet join the classroom. So that's what we want, right? We don't want students to be able to hop into our Google Meet link and start, having conversations without any kind of supervision. So we only want to turn that on. We only want to join the call when we're ready for students to interact with us. So what I'm going to do is, because I'm a co-teacher, I'm going to go into the classroom and I'm going to start a meeting.
Do you want me to start it so you could stay in the student, or?
That's okay. I'll start it because I'm going to show the some of the UI on this teacher side.
Okay. That's user interface.
Yes. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that off just so things don't get confusing. And I'm going to join the meeting. So now I'm in here as a teacher. Now this will pop up. This is if you wanted to add people outside of your Google Classroom. So you can invite maybe a teacher that's not in your classroom, or that this could be used in various different situations. I wouldn't worry about that right now unless you have a very specific use case for it. So we can just go ahead and close that. That's nothing to worry about. So now I'm in the classroom. Now I can wait for my students to join. And as we said, we probably want to join our classroom, maybe like our Google Meet, maybe like 10 minutes prior to our scheduled time, just so that we're in and we're set up, and then they can start to join, and they don't get those error messages and get turned away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead on my other computer here, and I'm going to join the student account. So now M student, which is our test account, has joined the meeting. So there are a few things that we can do by setting up our Google Meet this way that give us a little bit more control over the Google Meet than if we set it up different ways. So what that means is, because I'm in a teacher role, I can actually go over here to our participants, and I have the ability to mute and unmute our students. So if our student is unmuted and is maybe causing feedback or talking too much, see, I got some feedback now. I can go in here and I can actually mute the student so that that's not happening. I also have the ability to remove our students if there's issues that, maybe they're just not whatever, we have to remove them. We can do that as well. We might also use this in that opt-in, opt-out situation. The other reason why we might use this remove participant is because it's important that when you end your meetings, you're the last person to leave the meet. And the reason for that is, if you're the last person to leave your meet, then your sorry, I just want to make sure my microphone's still on. You will turn off that meeting link after you leave. So after you're the last person to leave, the meeting will register that you left the meeting, no one else was in the meeting, and shut the link off so that students can't join anymore. So that's an important step. The other thing that we can do in Google Meets is we can present our screen. And you do that by clicking this bottom right-hand button down here, Present Now. Present your entire screen is the way that we recommend you do it, mainly because it's a little easier to manage. So you would click that, and then you would click on the screen you want to present, and then click Share, and then anything you see on your screen will be broadcast to your class through Google Meets. The other thing I wanted to go over is in here, this little button down here, and then settings. Now, you don't normally have to worry about this section, but I wanted to mention it very quickly. If you're having audio issues, you can't hear, they can't hear you, or they can't see you, you're going to go in here and you're just going to want to make sure that your microphone is set up properly. Now, I'm using an external microphone. So in your case, you would probably just click internal microphone or the default. But if you're having audio or video issues, then this is where you would go to kind of make sure that everything is kind of squared away in here. Now, we have rolled out a few extensions, and I saw one or two people actually use it already. We have our nod extension here, so students can send thumbs up, or they can also raise their hand. And then for teachers, we have the grid view. So that you can see your entire class in the view all at once. So those are a few extensions that you can utilize. A thing to note, those extensions, the grid view and the nod extension, only work if you're using a Chromebook or a MacBook with the Chrome browser signed in. Okay, because those are Google Chrome extensions that are add-ons to the Google Meets experience. So you do have to be in a Chrome browser in order for those to work. So to end my meeting, like I said, I want to make sure that all of our students are removed. So I can go in here and I can remove our student here. Once the student is gone, then I can end my meeting. and close the tab. And now a student cannot rejoin that meeting because I have closed them out. So I can go ahead and prove that to you by clicking on here. And it will say, hey, wait a second. Sorry, the teacher left. You can't join. So those are kind of the overview of how the Google Meet side works on both the teacher side and the student side, and how to get the students into the classroom. Again, anytime you're doing that meeting, be mindful of these security things. Make sure your surrounding is clear, and also maybe for that first meeting, you want to go over those guidelines that you created that Melissa had mentioned. Make sure that everyone's kind of on the same page as far as what their expectations are. And with that, that's pretty much it on the Google Meet side. I'll pass it back over to Melissa.
Thank you, Tyler. Isn't he awesome? Everybody give him a thumbs up. 2 of them. He's so good. Thank you, Tyler. You're the best. I'm very lucky. The whole technology team they are wonderful, and all of you are wonderful for being here too. So let's jump over and look at some of these questions that you put into the chat. Thank you so much for reaching out. We're going to do the best we can to answer them. Is there a setting where students can automatically be muted upon entry to our Google Meet, or will they always have to press the mic to mute? Tyler, do you know the answer to that one?
So Google Meets is a little funky with how that particular thing works. Sometimes it will mute upon entry based on the meeting size. And then other times it's something that'll pop up in that pre-join box where they can just mute themselves before they get into the meeting. So I would say the best thing to do is just remind everyone to mute themselves when they go into that initial thing where it says, you know, here's your microphone, here's your thing, click here to join. Just have them mute themselves there anyway, because like I said, it's a little strange, the behavior. So.
Right, and what we've been noticing, I'm just going to share my screen again to just demonstrate something with you. What we've been noticing is, like many technology tools, but especially lately, companies are changing their options and their settings, almost daily. So we're trying to keep on top of that. But as of right now, it is a little, it does depend on the actual meeting. The other thing you could do is, as the student, Tyler had demonstrated before, as the students log in, you can click on that icon and then ask them and turn their microphones off by selecting that icon. Okay, let's get back to the chat here. And you'll notice that I am on a little of a lag here because our meeting size is so big, even though I tried to close out everything else that was that I didn't need on my computer. Can you edit groups in Google Class if you decide to change it from whole class to smaller groups down the line? So you can, and as a teacher of primary grades, that's something that you can do. But then just know that if you add any other resources to your Google Classroom, then you would have to copy those over to the other classroom, or as you segment them out. So if you want to kind of meet with me or anyone on the tech team to just discuss some tips about how to set up a classroom for students that are in Vanderveer in a way that makes most sense for you, I would be happy to do that for you. When adding the students in your class, are we only adding students who opt in for Google Meet? So in your classroom, if you are already using Google Classroom, you don't want to change the students that are already in there, okay? Because you already have your class in there, you have your assignments, you have your resources. You take a student out, now that student no longer has access to everything that you've already created for them. So no, you would not want to now if you're starting new as a first grade, second grade, or a teacher that's never used Google Classroom before, if you want to operate off the opt-in list and then only create a Google Classroom without any resources in it, but just to generate that Google Meet link for those students who have opted in, that is okay. Will families get information on how to accept invitations? Yes. As we move forward and we get all of the opt-in, opt-out information, we will send directions to families so that they know how to log in. And it's going to look different on the preschool to 2 side, or preschool to 2, as it would for 3 to 5, because most of those, 3 to 12, because most of those kids are used to logging in with their Google credentials and also familiar with Google Classroom. Pre-K through 1 do not have access to their district email. Will they get that information or use family emails? So we are going to do kind of a combination of both. All of the students have email addresses, but they don't necessarily know how to use them yet. So right now, the technology department and I, we're concentrating on the students that are receiving those PT, OT, and speech resources, and we're sending them individual login instructions so that they know how to log their kids in through their email accounts. Now, while we try to make those directions as simple as possible, not every parent may be able to do that, or feel comfortable signing out of their account and signing into another account. So there may be options where you might need to add a parent email to the Google Meet once it starts, so that that student can join in. And for the lower grades, we can do another session with you guys just to talk this through once you kind of process everything that we've put out here today. Can you put multiple Google Classrooms into the same meeting? So you can, but I don't know that will be something that you're going to want to do moving forward. Number one is because each school has to develop a schedule so that we don't have overlapping meetings. We don't want a student to have to decide, do I go to Ms. McEntee's classroom or do I go to Mr. Kazar's class, like meeting link? Which one do I go to? So each school has to come up with an idea or a schedule of what would be manageable so that our classes don't overlap. In my mind, it would probably be easiest to do that by period and just select which periods would have a check-in on different days. But that is something that will be determined by the building administration. If all students in a current class do not opt in, do I have to create a new class that only included those that did opt in? Well, that is your choice, okay? You can either you can create a different classroom and express that to your students that while these are your assignments in this Google Classroom, this is the Google Classroom that you're going to go just for meets. And you can have just those students in that meet and without any of the resources. And then you just need to keep track between the two. It's getting a little dark in here, sorry. You can keep track between the two so that you know where you're posting the assignments and classwork and where you are just using that meeting link. Is there a way to make the link visible so that to only the students who have opted in? That is the only way to make it visible to the students that have opted in, is if you do it separately. Who is responsible for making sure only opt-in students join Google Meet? You, as the educator, are responsible for maintaining who should be in your Google your Google Meet, and who should not be in Google Meet. As I said, once the lists are completed and everyone's done the surveys, we will share the opt-out lists with you by building and grade level so that you know who to look for. It is then your responsibility to check those lists. And if someone joins that does not have the permission to opt in, you will have to remove them from that group. Now, that being said, it would also be, and I would highly suggest this, as a classroom teacher that is interested in offering in phase 3 a meeting or office hours to your students, I would, if when I was in the classroom, if this was happening to me right now, and I had a list of students that had opted out, I would be calling every single one of those parents and just explaining how I'm planning to use Google Meets, what the rules and the outline is, and why I would really highly suggest that they allow their student to at least try it. They can watch and see what they think about it, and then decide if they wanted to not allow them to do that. And that would be my decision if I was still in the classroom, what I would do if students were on that opt-out list, and at least have that conversation with parents so they fully understand how it would be used before they decide just a hard no. And I think Tyler covered this before as far as the thumbs up. If you are on the Chrome browser, that has been enabled as an extension, as well as the grid view, so that you can see everybody as I'm seeing you guys right now, since I'm sharing my screen. This has been really helpful to me in doing these meetings over the past couple of weeks, to be able to see kind of everybody in, so that when I check in for a thumbs up, I'm able to kind of, visually see very quickly who is available or not. So the name of the extension that allows you to raise your hand is called Nod, N-O-D, Nod, like nod your head. And that has been pushed out to staff, to the Chrome browser for staff. If you don't have it, either the Nod extension or the grid extension, and you are in the Chrome browser and in the Meet, please submit a ticket through the tech support ticketing system through Incident IQ, and one of the technology members will address that. So I know that we have 2 faculty meetings in 8 minutes, so I want to wrap this up. First of all, I want to thank everyone for your participation today. I'm so excited to see the interest that so many of you have to move in this direction. The one thing that I want you to just to think about is online learning or online meetings are going to be, at least in the beginning, think about this is like September online, basically. Kids are going to need to follow our lead. Things are going to be a little messy at first. Things aren't going to work perfectly. Kids might have problems accessing and logging in. Their internet speed, their Wi-Fi might not be as fast as some other kid in the class, and they might have lag issues. So expect that those things are going to happen, and just roll with it, okay? Try to be patient with yourselves. Try to be patient with your students, because those things are bound to happen. That is why, another reason why we are not doing that online live learning, and this is really just a check-in. Determine your guidelines for your group, and how you want students to be able to ask a question. Also, consider buddying up with someone, and making sure that you have a few students in the class with you, and it's not just a one-on-one video thing. You can determine whether or not you want students to have video on, but maybe you want to buddy up with another teacher that is going to be in the room prior to you starting. Just like we wouldn't want to be one-on-one in a classroom with a student, we always have at least a couple of students with us. The same rules apply for online. So think about those things when you are going to set up your meetings. The way we're setting up meetings with our PT, OT, and speech teachers is that they are having an instructional assistant in their Google Classroom with them. So that's something for you to consider as well. So just keep those things in mind. Now, you've learned a lot today, and I'm sure that there's probably a lot of questions that are going to come up about what this is going to look like for you as you move forward. Think about those questions. Reach out to one another, to me, to the technology team, and we will, work together to try to find something that's comfortable. But like I say in every PD that we do, be kind to yourselves, be patient with yourselves, because nothing is going to be perfect, and we're all in this together. So thank you all. We have 5 minutes before our next meetings. Thank you so much for being here. I sincerely appreciate each and every one of you and all the hard work that you're doing. I hope that you have some great faculty meetings today. And for middle school, I'll see you guys on Monday. And please let me know if you need anything else. All right. Take care. Hope you and your families are well. All right. Stay healthy. Bye.